Hello there, my name is Vlad and welcome to the Garage Animal channel. After an unforgettable journey, I realized that an electric car is not my cup of tea, and I decided to upgrade my old engine. And not just the engine, but we'll get to that later. Meanwhile, my buddy Max got obsessed with the whole EV idea and found himself a dirt cheap Chinese electric car in Kyiv. A nearly new Bio-Auto EVA 2 with 4 kilowatts of power and some half-dead gel batteries. Those batteries had a range of 30 kilometers, 25 of which he drove in Kyiv from the dealership to the car transporter. Once this marvel was delivered to Kharkiv, we decided to take a chance and drive home on our own. Just in case, we had my old trusty Zaporozhets as a backup. Of course, the charge didn't last, so we ended up towing that tiny thing with the Zaporozhets. And in true genius fashion, I attached the tow rope to the rear panel, effectively wrecking my own car in the process. Winter came and it's time for drifting. Because of that, or maybe not, my clutch started acting up. Shifting gears became a nightmare, especially first gear. I found a DIY garage, a warm spot with tools, a lift, free hot tea, and it cost around $25 per day. I bought a new clutch pressure plate, clutch disc, and throwout bearing. In this car, the engine is only attached to the transmission, which in turn is bolted to the chassis. Removing the engine meant disconnecting all the wires, hoses, axles, gear linkage, speedometer cable, and clutch slave cylinder. Being an optimist and idiot, I thought I'd get everything done in a day. Instead, by the end of the day one, all we managed was getting the engine out. The next day I swapped the clutch according to the manual, because this antique setup needs to be adjusted with these nuts. Then spent ages wrestling the engine back in, and I managed to cut the temperature sensor wire off, which weirdly enough didn't look much like a temperature sensor. The engine ran unstable, so back home I soldered the sensor back on and things smoothed out. Well, everything except the clutch, which somehow got even worse. I figured it was time to get my own garage. I found one more or less large for around $30 per month, but far from home. When it was time to move to the garage, I had to learn how to drive without a clutch. Unfortunately, I didn't record that adventure, but hey, I will show you how to do it now. You didn't ask, but you are getting a tutorial anyway. First off, you cannot shift into first from neutral if the car isn't moving. To start, you have to turn off the engine, shift into first, and then fire it up. The engine car will start moving immediately, so be nice to your starter, okay? But better not to do that. Make sure your engine is warm and starts easy. To upshift, speed up to around 2000 RPM, let off the gas, slip into neutral, and then gently nudge the shifter into the next gear as the revs drop. When the gears synchronize, it will slide in smoothly. Downshifting is trickier. Let off the gas, shift to the neutral, rev it up to about 3000 RPM, let off the gas, and slide into the lower gear. And whatever you do, do not stop. If you do, you'll have to stop the engine and repeat the starter part. So I got to the garage. My friends and I decided to celebrate it with a garage barbecue, and my furry steering wheel officially became our garage mascot. So, time to make a million mistakes and hopefully learn something. This time I pulled the engine in just 2 hours. It turned out that one of the adjusting nuts was unscrewed. If I had just fixed that, everything would have been fine. But no, I have to go extra mile. So I saw a tiny oil leak and decided that the engine needed a full overhaul. I bought this repair kit, a set of stiff gaskets and oil seals specifically for this engine, a new starter bendix from some Kia since my old one was slipping, a gearbox boot, a torque wrench, thread locker, a sealant, feeler gauges, a 36mm socket for the flywheel, and a brake line wrench. The fun began when I tried to remove the flywheel. My cheap socket turned out to be too soft, so it stripped and bent. Borrowed a proper one from a neighbor along with a beefy breaker bar and some pipes for extra leverage. After cranking it with all my might, I finally got it off. Underneath, a lovely mess of oil and grime, confirming my worst fears. I removed the carburetor and discovered the mounting surface was warped, probably causing an air leak. Did I fix it? Nope. I had big plans to swap to fuel injection, so I just did nothing. Removed the cooling fan, drained the oil, which looked like liquid tear, and peeled away all the covers and exhaust. Oil was everywhere. You can probably guess what happened next. Yep, the full engine teardown.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Under the valve covers, things looked surprisingly clean, except for the gaskets drowning in the sealant. Removed the rocker arms, pulled the push rods, and removed the heads. Why did I do this? Found the carbon buildup on the pistons, which is normal. Zero honing marks in the cylinders, the gaskets are cracked, the sealant is everywhere. And most likely the sealing of the combustion chamber was bad. Pulled the cylinders and, don't judge me, cleaned the pistons with an angle grinder. While checking the valve springs, I noticed that one valve spring retainer set higher than the rest. Bought a whole new spring set just in case and one new retainer. Let the valves, slapped everything back together and was almost done. It's time to put the heads back in place. For this we need a torque wrench. The nuts must be tightened in certain order, first round with a torque of 1 Nm and then 4 to 5 Nm. I was lucky and one of the studs came out of the crankcase along with the thread on the first round. This is because the crankcase is made of magnesium and the studs are made of steel and have M10 thread. Write in comments if there is a such problem with the Beetle engine and how to deal with it. So I had to cut a new M12 thread in the crankcase and order a new stud from a turner. While I was waiting for the new stud, I decided to deal with the reverse gear, which was knocked out due to backlash. I removed the backlash with a washer and it became much better. I also decided to remove the remnants of the old ignition system. Because I love making my life harder, I decided to install an ECU. We already have a crankshaft position sensor, a manifold absolute pressure sensor, a coolant temperature sensor, oil temperature in my case, and some homemade control unit, which, as I learned from the previous owner, is called SECU3, which is a Ukrainian open source project. Initially it was only a microprocessor ignition system and later became a full-featured engine control unit which has 4 ignition and 4 injection channels and much more. If you are interested, the link is in the description, but now I'm not sure that I will use it further. Anyway, I got the latest version which cost me $250, the same price as my whole damn car. So now I measure all repairs and turning costs in Zaporozhets units. Installed the camshaft position sensor, made a shutter for it from a steel plate. Yes, I know it's terrible, but it was a temporary solution. The sensor itself will stand in place of the fuel pump, and the fuel pump will be electric one, which turned out to be even worse. I also installed the engine temperature sensor in place of the standard one, hoping to receive engine temperature data on the dashboard from the ECU in the future. When I received the stud, I was able to assemble the engine, installed it in place and began designing the wiring. Now there will be individual ignition coils. I connected the engine wiring and ECU using a protected military connector because why not? When everything was connected, it was time to try connecting to the ECU using USB and a special program. After struggling with firmware updates and sensor calibration, I finally got the car running, sort of. It was fun, until oil started pouring out of the rear crank seal again. So back to pulling the engine again. Oh, and then the garage ceiling collapsed. Time for a new garage. So I think it's time to end up here. Hit that subscribe button for more chaos and see you in the next episode.